All right. There we go. What is going on, fine people? We're back with reflections as we have set up all this fun adventure as we go along. So I'm Andrew. This is Lorna. We're partners, and it is our anniversary today. Yay. We have been together. I'm going to open this up wide. Oh, I guess that didn't do anything. So it's crazy. We've been married for 5 years, which is really exciting. In a relationship for 11, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes, exciting. Obviously, our little Gooby Dominus is 6 months old, and I'm just really excited. I'm really excited, of course, for the date that we've got planned later on.
I'm so
today,
excited, yeah.
Which is going to be really good. But we want to do this episode talking about why we make the choices that we make and why we do the things that we do. Because Lorna and I always find ourselves in conversations, whether it's like with family members, with friends, where I'd say for the most part now, or at least our immediate family understand how we operate.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't understand how we operate. And so there's a lot of question marks and like, well, why did you change that? Or why are you doing this in your business? Or how come you're taking this on? And a lot of times the things that you pick in your life don't make sense to other people. And we can spend a lot of time trying to convince people or trying to change other people's opinions, or you can just go ahead with the way that that you operate day to day. So I think I want to start with the example of I think the baptism, because that's like pretty relevant. So Dominus's baptism is going to be coming up in June, and usually, like, both of us have European backgrounds for the most part. The way like a European tradition or a standard is set is you're supposed to invite everybody who has two legs and basically show up to this thing. However, we said immediate family only, and there were a lot of people who were questioning, like, well, how come there's no partners involved? How come there's no this? Like, can we bring other people? And the answer is no. We just wanted immediate family there. And I think you and I are both on the same page with, like, for our wedding, for example,
yeah.
Right? My brother was dating a girl at that time, and it was the same thing. Everyone was invited to the wedding. We didn't invite her. And then that relationship didn't work out. And so now he's with someone else, has been with her, I think, for probably half a year now already. But that's just one of the examples of where me and Lorna are in alignment. Like, if we want to do something very meaningful, a baptism, a wedding, whether it's like a very important family gathering, we don't just want anyone there. We want the people there that we know are going to stick around. And it's effectively the same way that we treat like our friendships inside of our life, right? We don't just do things with random people. We have a select group of friends. We're investing in spending time in them. And then everyone else we might see like 1 or 2 times a year. But Lorna and I don't say yes to everything. And what this looks like on the outside to all these people is we might be very disinterested, and we're like, look, like, I can't make a lot of these things, or I'm only going to show up once a year. But in reality, it's because we're actually trying to be very conscious of the people that we're spending time with.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times people just make decisions based off of what they feel they should be doing, right? Mm-hmm. Like, but we should be inviting these people, or we should be doing this for his baptism or his 1-year birthday. We're even talking about that, or like, this is how you're supposed to operate. And even when it came to like, the menu and whether we include like drinks and things like that, like, it's like, this is what you're supposed to do, but this is what everybody else does. And we were just talking before this when Andrew and I were having lunch, and I said, oh, we're not going to let other people influence us. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, it's so easy for people to share their opinion and say, well, like, why don't you do this? And, initially, actually, when we first, shared with our family that we wanted everybody at our baptism, there was like, oh, like, you're going to invite all those people. Like, why don't you make it super intimate? And we're like, but we want to do it this way. And I think what's really important for everybody listening is, are you making decisions based off of what you've seen, what you feel like you should be doing, maybe what other siblings have done, other people in your family have done, and you feel like you need to replicate that? You have to decide for yourself and understand that people are not going to understand it. And, I still feel like this is a little bit awkward. This is a little scary. Like, should we really set this? Like, I think when setting boundaries, it's not like you're not a human with no emotion and it's just so easy to set these boundaries. It still feels scary. It still kind of feels a little bit awkward, but you can't let people's reactions influence how you make decisions or going back and changing your decision because somebody doesn't understand. Like, it's so important to get clear on what it is that you want and then stay firm in that, knowing that people will not understand it.
Mhm. To your reaction point,
Yeah.
when someone reacts in front of you, they are reacting to something inside themselves. And I had a mentor that really helped me break down and understand what a real reaction is, because I found myself, especially in the business world, sometimes I would react to the way other people would do things. And I was like, well, that's not the way that I would do it. And then he was like, well, here's what that says about you. It's probably you're doing something very similar and you don't
Mhm.
like the fact that you're doing that. So, like, a great example is like, you might be someone who's like has a really pet peeve of being late. And it's like, okay, were you called out for being late in the past? Did you maybe show up late to something and there was a consequence that you were like, oh crap, like I can never be late again?
Mhm.
And so now what's happened is you're always early, you're always very prompt. And now when you see lateness in someone else, it pulls out the reflection in you that experiences lack in that moment. And there are a lot of people who will react both in business relationships, both in personal relationships. And I catch myself even occasionally being in a reaction as well too,
Yeah.
where it's like I do my best to be very professional, very prompt. I always make sure that when I promise a client something on a
Mhm.
specific day, like I get it done on that day, because I used to be that guy, like at the very beginning of business, that would be like, oh, I'll get this to you on Friday, but then it was Wednesday. And I had a client say to me, like, hey, when you say that, I don't believe you. And that was when I had the in-home
Yeah.
training. And I actually had to stop and think and say, well, like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the person that says something and the person doesn't actually put any value behind those
Right.
words, or they're like, oh, this is going to be another broken promise, even with something so small, you know? And now when I see people who promise things like, hey, I'll get back to you by this, and then they don't, that still has this little irking wedge, because I recognize how other people see
Yeah.
that. And so I want what's best for them, you
Yeah.
know? But I talk about the reaction because I feel like, especially with family and with friends, reactions are something that appear all the time.
Yeah.
And so you feel as the person that you have to like manage those emotions, when in reality, you don't.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, every decision we've made, both in our businesses and in our personal lives, we've done because we genuinely believe it is for the betterment of us. And sometimes they don't necessarily make sense. Like, we've talked several times about when you first went online with your business, how I didn't even thought that that made sense. And
Yeah.
then you were able to then show me like, hey, there's an alternate way of doing
Yeah.
it, right? And when we pivoted away from the studio and when we moved the studio, we had a lot of friends and family members who were like, you're giving up your location. Like, you've only been there for, what, maybe 3
3 years.
years at that
Yeah.
time. So they're like, and you're just going to pivot away from it already. Like, why would you do that? But
Mhm.
those are also the same people who are like, it's very risky for you to start. It's very risky for you to do this, or you shouldn't do this. And I don't know about you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Me personally, I never receive feedback from someone who has not done the thing, or
Yeah.
for someone who's not tried.
Yeah.
So if someone tells me, oh, like, you shouldn't do this with your rental property, but they've never experienced the rental market, I can't even consider that as
Yeah.
a
No.
thought,
Yeah.
because you haven't tried,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, like a lot of the times people will react maybe negatively or in a specific way because, using the boundaries example, it's like maybe they want to set that boundary. Maybe they want to be able to do that, but like they're afraid or they don't know how, And so a lot of the times there is like almost like a shock, like,
Mm.
wait, like you're not doing this or you're doing it this way. I'm almost like confused because I didn't even know that that was like a possibility. But to your point, I think, it's really important to stay in your own lane. And yeah, people who are going to give you advice, but it's like, have they done the thing that you want to do?
Mm.
It's like, I don't take advice from people who haven't been in my shoes because it's so easy. Like I had a business coach once and, she's like this multimillionaire and she lived in like, a $200,000 home and like it was just tiny and everyone would be like, you're definitely like not a millionaire. And she's like, what? Just because I don't have a fancy new car or like I have my own like little tiny house, like that's what she values. And it's really easy from somebody who's never been a millionaire to be like, well, this is what I would do. I would be going on trips and I'd be doing this. And it's like, but would you really?
Right.
You know? And it's like, same. It's like, oh, if I was a mom, I'd be doing this until you're actually a mom, you know? So it's like, who are you actually getting advice from?
You know, it was funny. So a gentleman that I was speaking to at the gym this morning when I went to work out, he's Irish, and he said a saying which like the saying was really beautiful, but his accent I had to break down what it was. And he's like, you know, sometimes you can look at someone externally, and they have a saying in Ireland that's called "fur coat, no knickers," right? Which is like on the outside everything looks fantastic, but no knickers is like when you actually look underneath you. And he was talking about it in a financial sense, where there are a lot of people who are making decisions, who you're watching them online and they're living these like really extravagant lives, but they're doubled on their mortgage, they have a full car payment, they don't have anything in savings, it's paycheck to paycheck, and yet on the surface there's this like huge level of extravagance that's there, right? And then you'll have the people who again are very low key, very soft spoken, don't have the flashy house, the flashy car, and yet they've got more money, they have more family connectivity. And it's not to say that like either or is right or wrong. Like you live your life the way that you want to, but I think like the way that I have I suppose changed the way I make my decisions and the way I put a focus on now, it's very different. You know, like I used to be very like, if it's not making me money, if it's not building my business, I don't want to do it. And now I'm like, you know, is it benefiting the people around me? And then I'm like, does it fulfill the purpose that gets me fired up and excited every morning? And then I go, you know, hey, if I can monetize it, amazing. If I can't, well, you know, that's okay too. There's other ways to do it, you know? Yeah. How have you changed like the way you make decisions or the way you actually take on some of the choices that people may or may not like?
I think I've kind of stated this at the beginning. You know, I used to look to see what everyone else did and then be like, but this is how we're supposed to do it. Instead of really asking myself, like, what do I value? What do I really want to do? And now, you know, I don't even look to see what other people are doing, to be honest with you. Like when it comes to making decisions, I'm just like, you know, I'll bring something forward to you, like, and like this is what I want to do. And that's pretty much it. I really listen to myself. I ask myself like what's going to energize me, what's going to fuel me, what's going to make me happy. You know, because I think a lot of the times it's really easy to make decisions based off of a specific result that you have in your mind, but I want to be able to feel good as I'm going through it, not just like I have this result and I'm so happy. It's like I want to feel so good like as I'm getting that result, like through the process.
Yeah, you started to care more about the journey than you actually did the
result lasts, you know, a day. It lasts like even think about when we got married, right? And it just another example, it's like it's so easy for everyone to like stress out and be like, oh my God, da, 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 da. And
Some
then
people put stupid amount of money in
and then it's like
weddings.
you have the day and you're not even enjoying it and you're so stressed out for one day, you're not even there, right? And I just see the picture of little Goofy on the left there. That's so cute. I want to see it.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have to share.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I have that
so cute. He's just smiling and laughing. He's probably like a week old there.
Yeah, we'll make sure we share it with you guys. It's really cute.
So cute. Anyways, and you know, for me, it was like I was so chill. Like I don't know if you remember, but like
we didn't have any worries on it.
It was like no, but even the process, like candles, sure. Like, do you want them to get delivered? Okay, yeah, sure. Like I was not like worried at all. And I think again, when you always have this like deep level of faith that like everything's gonna work out for you, you don't stress about the little shit because it's like what actually matters, you know? And like to me, it's like, yeah, obviously our wedding day mattered, but it's like you can't be so focused on the result if you're like that's just gonna drive you crazy. It's like enjoy the process because man, life goes by so fast. Like
100%.
It's goes by so fast.
there's this whole, I guess, kind of feeling that I've been getting lately, right? Is when I'm having conversations with people, I find that people are in two camps. That it's camp number one, where there's a little bit of like, people are starting to become curious of the things that we do.
Yeah.
And I think because, not just because we live, I would say we live a pretty decent life with everything that we have, but also because we don't operate the way that I think people assume on social media,
Mhm.
where, you'll see a person on social media, and look, you've seen this as well too, right? Like, the person on social media, you meet them in person, they're not even the same person. And you're like, what is this? Is this a front? Or like, is this the real you? Is that the real you? Like, what is it, type of thing. But people are starting to become curious of like why we're doing the things that we're doing, because they're recognizing that we're living different lives than they're living, and
Right.
not just financially, but like, we don't live high stress lives, even though we have a lot of stuff going on. Like, we live lives filled with gratitude.
Yeah.
We're very connected in our relationship,
Mhm.
right? And I think a lot of times people see that, and then they're saying to themselves, well, like, should my relationship look like that? And how do I start to operate this way? And we've never, like, even though I would say we've done pretty decently in terms of finances, we've never let that be something that's like gotten over our heads.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have like, our car's worth $42,000. It has no payments on it, because again, we didn't want like a nonsense monthly payment. We've got one vehicle in between the two of us that we share, because we don't need to drive. It's
Yeah.
not like everything that we do is very inflated.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing kind of people in two camps. The first one is, there's people who are curious.
Mhm.
And so when I see them questioning our decisions, why are you holding off to sell the rental? Why are you doing this? Why did you pivot your business even though
Yeah.
your business was making money? I can tell it's from curiosity. And then the other people who tend to question, I can tell it's from a place of lack within themselves, where they're questioning because they're looking for like, why, like, how can I contribute this to luck? How can I contribute this to something outside? Like, why are you doing it this way? So that I can be like, aha, this is what made them successful.
Right. Yeah.
And it's interesting, because I feel like the farther we'll go down this road, the greater the separation will be of the two, where I think at some point you're going to have a group of people that just will stop supporting you. And that's okay, because they're just no longer, I think, comfortable with what we're doing. And then there's going to be people who just continue to grow with us.
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning, it's just like anything, right? Like, when people can still somewhat kind of relate to you, it's like, yeah, do that. Like, we're cheering you on, right? And then as soon as you start doing something that kind of seems like out of touch, or maybe somebody thinks that they are not able to do it, it feels like, ooh, like that's triggering, or like, you shouldn't do that. Like, I wouldn't do that if I were you, right? And then it kind of gets to that. But again, this all really comes down to like, the choices that you make are for you. And I think the reason why we're able to make these decisions is like, we talk about them. Like, it's like, it's not like, there's a fine balance between, being intuitive and making a decision that feels right for you, and just like, this is what it is, without having thought behind it.
Yeah.
And also like, let's like take 3 months to like, figure out if we should like make this decision. It's like, you need to find that balance between like talking through things, making sure that it is a choice that you actually want for yourself, without sabotaging yourself and be like, let's take, a million years to like make a decision. Or let me ask my mom, or let me ask this person, let me ask this person. It's like, then you're not actually deciding for yourself, And again, when it comes to like making decisions for you and your family, like, the only people I believe you should get advice from is your partner and someone who's been in your shoes.
Yeah. I think, and I don't know about you, I used to share things with people because I felt like my journey through entrepreneurship wasn't really celebrated.
Yeah.
Where not this, like, my family always supported
Yeah.
the process,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they were the ones who initially were like,
Yeah.
if the bank won't do it, we'll loan you at the same terms,
Yeah.
right? Like, they were very supportive of the process. But there was that level of fear, and that question mark is like, like, do you know what you're doing? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
And the path of entrepreneurship I found was very lonely, because especially with us working for ourselves, and it's not like we had like a million employees even when we had the facility. A lot of the times we were making decisions by ourselves. And so when all you're doing is basically talking to your business partner and making these decisions or having these conversations, you can't talk with your friends because they're not in business.
Yeah.
You can't share with your family because they don't understand. There's like that separation of like, well, I just want to talk about it. I want to talk about the exciting things I'm doing. I want to talk about the decisions I'm making. And I don't necessarily need advice, but like, I almost want people to be like, oh, that's really cool, But then I realized, like, I'm really sharing this out of ego. Like, I'm looking for validation from other people because I just want to feel okay with the stuff that I'm taking on, And that's why, like, even recently, like with the TED Talk, like, it's been such a different shift, because that would be something that I would have told everyone, and I would have been like, oh, like, please support me, all this. And tons of people did support. But like, I would say from at least my family side, I was very surprised about the lack of people who commented or shared on that experience. But energetically, it was different, because I was like, you know what, I'm okay with it because I don't need the validation.
I was going to say, because you did it for yourself, and you were also very proud of yourself. And I think a lot of the times we need that external validation from other people when we aren't celebrating ourselves. And I know you anchored it in, and like, you were really proud of yourself. You celebrated yourself. And I think that's when we don't need that external validation,
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you started the journey of, again, like wanting to hop in and be self-employed and then actually work to be an entrepreneur and stuff like that, like, did you feel those same feelings? Or I guess going through the process, I feel like you've always been a confident person.
Well, like, I think I never really shared with people outside of my network. So like, I was part of like group programs, and like, I would share in there because like, I knew that they would get me. I would share with like my parents, and like, they would always be like jumping up and down, like celebrating for me. But
your parents are incredibly supportive.
Yeah. And it's like, they didn't even understand, but they're like, amazing. Like, I still don't know what you do, but like, amazing. Like, they're just like so excited. But I think for me, it's like, I actually didn't really feel the need to share with other people, because I feel like almost like you have to like try to explain to them, and then you're almost like convincing them to like celebrate you, and it's like they don't really understand. So it's like, other than like my parents and like you and people in programs that I've been with, like, I really just celebrated myself, and got in rooms with people who understood me, and that's how I was able to just feel like in constant momentum, because I was still celebrated, but like with the right people, in my opinion.
Yeah. Not every community that's going to be around you is going to be the ones that celebrate. And like, just like you can be a part of a family, but you don't have like that close knit connection. And this is why you really have to be selective with who you're sharing stuff with and why you're sharing it with the person.
Yeah.
Are you doing it because you're seeking validation? Are you doing it because you want a genuine opinion? Are you doing it because you have no one to talk about it with? In which case you need to like find a community to be able to share. And I think that's why in different communities, you can talk about different things, right? Like, the people in church would have different conversations than my men's group, than my business network, right? And like, all of those things have places, and sometimes they overlap. And if they do, that's amazing. But that's why you have to be very careful with how you talk, right? I want to take a second to really talk about like why we're doing the things that we're doing right now, because I've made a lot of pivots in business that I feel like people still don't understand. So I went from, that personal training aspect, like delivering sessions, to now I'm doing business coaching. And don't get me wrong, like, people used to pay me a lot for personal training, like $1,100 a month, $1,700 a month. And there's a lot of guaranteed income that's there.
Right.
And when I decided that I was going to switch into the business coaching, I kind of got two questions, like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why leave that money behind to just do the switch? And then the second thing is like, well, are you like, are you qualified, like going into that change? And I think for me, making that decision was really just about following a passion. And
Yeah.
I started to fall in love with business more than I did working with people.
Yeah.
And it's almost like disingenuine to continue to like do that type
Mhm.
of stuff knowing that your passion is somewhere else.
Yep.
And so for me, that decision largely came with like, and I remember having that conversation with you
Yeah.
where I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and the hard part is sometimes you're energetically out of something.
Yeah.
But it took me like a full year to actually
Yeah.
make the change.
Yeah.
And then 6 months to find like my first client in
Yeah.
that process. And going through that like was hard because you're still dealing with the aftermath of your old identity.
Right.
You still you have to clean all that up. You have to finish
Yep.
those contracts and finish
Yep.
up with the people and have them renew with someone else and do all that stuff before you can actually go and make the change.
I think a lot of the times people don't make the decisions because, again, there is so much fear. Like, even, when I was, personal training, and we had the fitness studio, and I really wanted to do online coaching. Like, you didn't even understand it at first, like you said. And if I would have been like, oh my gosh, Andrew's not going to get it, he's not going to understand, and like, I wouldn't be here today. And so it's like sometimes people aren't going to understand it until you actually do it. And then people see like the benefit, and like, then that's how people kind of get on board. But like, I too was like so terrified of, going from personal training, health coaching to, helping with the relationship with food. But it's easy to stay in something when it's working, you have clients, and like
It
it's
feels like a
almost
safe
like guaranteed, like I grew my social media following to almost like 100,000 followers, and it's like people knew me for that, right? And you're almost like diving head first, like jumping off a cliff, like you can't even see the landing. It's like, holy shit, like I don't know if this is going to work. But you have to really ask yourself, if you're constantly thinking about something, if you constantly feel this pull and it's coming multiple times, right? Like, it's not just like, oh, I had this thought. Like, what do you think? It's like you're constantly thinking about making a pivot, making a change. You cannot ignore that, because it's going to keep tapping you on the shoulder until you actually listen. And it's only going to be more challenging the further you let yourself stay in the thing that you don't want to do, because it's not serving you. It's not serving your clients. And then you almost like are resentful of yourself of like not actually taking the leap sooner.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
I feel like we have always been very good in doing decisions that put us into alignment instead of staying with something that slowly brings us out of alignment.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I would use the word waste. They waste a lot of time and opportunity and attention trying to keep themselves the same when they know energetically that they've been out for a really long time. And that pressure just continues to build, and there's a reason why, like when you look at maybe the relationships that haven't worked out for you, or the businesses that haven't fully started up for you, or, even certain family dynamics and stuff where it's like you keep going back to the same problem over and over again. There's something that's there and you're avoiding it. You're not paying attention to it, but you really do have to figure that out, because it's just going to be the thing that keeps you stuck, and even as well too, like we haven't shared a lot about, our investments and stuff like that, but like our rental property, we tried to put it up for sale last year, and it was on the market for an entire year. We didn't have anybody in it, losing money hand over fist, because guess what? Like we were floating the mortgage and the bills because there's no one in it, trying to maximize it to be able to sell. And then Lorna and I sat down and just realized, like, you know what? It's not going to sell in a market like this. So we had to come to an energetic agreement and be okay with like, we're going to keep this even though energetically we're out, because right now it's not making sense for us. And so now we filled it with upper tenant. We got a lower tenant that's going to be starting next month. So now it is profitable. The question still goes like, okay, well, what are you going to do now? And everyone keeps telling us, sell, get out of it, do this thing. You shouldn't have bought it in the first place. The reality is, again, a lot of those people don't have any experience. And we've made the decision to keep it for another year because right now is not the time to sell, and it doesn't make any sense. And we're not going to put all the time, energy, and effort and sell it at a loss because we can afford to be patient.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it doesn't make a lot of sense to people. But for us, when we invest into things and when we take action, everything we do works. It's just what's the time frame that you're putting it on. So for us, we've made the decision to like, hey, we're going to keep it. And even though we're energetically out of it, we're going to come to agreement with we're energetically out, put the minimal amount of time into this thing, be patient, and then sell it and then reap the rewards afterwards. Because there are some things in your life where in your lives where it's going to take multiple years for you to figure it out. It's going to take you pieces and you're going to have to revisit it over and over again. And remember as well, too, a lot of the things that we've asked for in our life are the things that we're complaining about now. You know, there was a point in which me and Lorna had talked about and dreamed of owning a rental property and saw it as a great way to invest. And, you know, I remember in that December, like when we got the call, I think it was before my birthday or after my birthday.
I think it was maybe after.
Yeah, I think it was slightly after my birthday, where like we were just sitting on the couch and they got a message from the realtor and she's like, congratulations, it's yours. And I was like, holy shit, like
moly,
we own a rental property now. Like that's it, you know, that's a key to investing. And I feel like even some of our other investments, like what, you know, when we invested the money offshore and stuff, like all of those things were very exciting. And then with it came a whole new set of challenges. And that's the whole thing, is everything you're asking for is not the end. There's more to it after that than then you're going to have to work through.
Yeah. I think also too, like sometimes you can't just make the decision that you want tomorrow. You know, like this is the whole thing. Like you might be, you know, living in a place that is not ideal, or you might be at a job that you've been at for 20 years, or like sometimes you can't just like snap your fingers and be like, I want to make this decision. Sometimes again, you have to do what's logically right, even if it doesn't feel right, so that you can actually get to a point where it logically makes sense and it like emotionally feels right, you know. So I think there's that aspect too, right? Like even when it came to like, you know, making the change, like it wouldn't have been smart if you just like made the change
if
tomorrow.
I just like exited all my clients, like sorry,
that
now
also
I have no
doesn't
income.
make sense, right? So it's like sometimes, you know, yes, you want to feel, yes, you want to be intuitive, yes, you want to make those decisions that like feel right for you and make you, you know, feel in alignment and things like that. But sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
I think people can change their feelings, and I think people don't realize that. They'll go into something and be like, it doesn't feel right. And then this is where, like, you know, we've even had conversations in the ladies' mastermind. You know, can you come to a state of acceptance or a state of rejecting something? If you reject something in its entirety, you've declared it's not for you, and you just got to figure out what's the time frame in which I separate, cut this out, move away, because you got to do all the steps. But sometimes we can come to agreement. You know, and like using the rental as an example, you know, I think I don't like it because the amount of time that it's taken, I could have spent that same time and probably taken the business a lot further. And that's the part that's frustrating. The other part that's frustrating is the lack of respect that I think some people have, where not everyone operates like me and Lorna. If I lived in a house that wasn't mine, I would treat it like it wasn't mine. And if someone, like, even if I was paying rent, there would be a level of respect that's there. And some people aren't raised like us and don't have our values. And so all of these things, you know, the property damage, the renovations, all of that stuff has added to the energy that I didn't consider going into it. Because I just thought, hey, we're going to work to vet someone and then they're going to be good fits, and that's totally fine. You know? But all of it is relevant. But I genuinely believe, even if something doesn't feel right, you can get to an okay state with it. But you have to take the time to break it down and say, what can I accept? What do I reject? How do I continue to go? What does it look like if I'm doing this for another 2 or 3 years? So then you can develop some clear-cut boundaries. You know, like Lorna and I are okay holding it another year because we had multiple conversations on it, in which case we were like, look, here's what we have to do to make ourselves energetically okay with it. And that's why we filled the rental property back out. And now it's not a concern for us. Right. But a lot of people don't do that work with some of the things in their life, you know? And that's a big thing. So I think we wanted to do this episode really to just showcase to you guys, your decisions don't have to be cleared or vetted or okayed by everybody. People don't know what you're thinking. People don't understand what's going on. Sometimes things don't make logical sense and you have to move on it. Sometimes you need a little bit of logical sense to actually structure how you make the transition away. But ultimately, as long as the goals are in line with like your purpose, your passion, what you're working towards and what you're trying to achieve, then really like the feedback is secondary from everyone. And even when Lauren and I work with coaches, I don't just take what they say, even though they're the experts. I evaluate it and I say, like, what do I like about it? What do I not like? What am I taking from this? And all of it is just like helps us move along the way.
Right.
And I think that's why we are where we are.
Yeah.
Which is like we're confident in ourselves. We're excited about the direction we're moving. We have a very good relationship because we're always doing that communication and we're always doing the hard work up front.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the fun stuff. So we're going to leave the end of that episode like that. And I'll try and see if we can sneak in a little picture of Gooby because why not? You know what I mean?
So
We've got to
cute.
share it with everybody. Yeah, that's like, I think he was a week old. That little
He was.
photo,
Yeah,
so.
that outfit. Oh my God.
Yeah. I'll make sure.
It's like one of the first outfits we bought. And he still had his like hat and gloves on. Cause like when they're first like a week or two old, they're like, make sure they have a hat. And then he used to like, he had like these freaking long ass nails and he would always be putting his fingers in his eyes and it would make me so anxious.
Yeah,
so I would
we gave him gloves.
put gloves on him, but so cute.
Yeah, so we'll make sure we sneak that photo in there for you guys who are watching it on the YouTube, or if you're listening to it, then just go to the YouTube and see the video. But otherwise, thanks guys for listening into another episode of Reflections with the Costas, and we will see you all next week. Bye, folks. See ya.